If you're trying to make your first feature film and you don't have a rich uncle in Hollywood or a list of producers on your phone, welcome to the club. That was me. That was my partner, indie producer Mark Klebanoff, and it's been the same for the 400 plus filmmakers we've helped get their films made. Wealthy people in your network can help, but what really matters is having a clear strategy. So today I'm breaking down 5 funding methods that are actually working for first-time filmmakers right now, and none of them require a single industry connection. So most filmmakers think they need connections to fund their first film, and in a way you do. Films get made through people. It's almost impossible to do it completely on your own. But here's where people get it wrong. You can know the right people and still not get funded. Because the issue isn't just connections, the issue is whether your project is actually investable. Money doesn't fund relationships alone, it funds confidence. So let's start with relationships, but not in the way most people think. Not industry connections, not who you know in Hollywood. I'm talking about the people around you and how funding actually starts there. So the first way is relationships. The first way films actually get funded is through relationships. You may think, well, I don't know anyone, so that's out. And I would challenge that. You may not know anyone in Hollywood. You may not think you know wealthy people, but you know people who know people, right? You'd be amazed at what happens when you start tapping the network of people you do know. My business partner and indie producer Mark Klebanoff says time and time again, that money rarely comes from where he thinks it'll come. It usually comes from a connection of a connection. He calls it the networking effect. A lot of filmmakers stop themselves before they start because they believe they need to know money before they start. But the money is out there. Gayan in our community started talking about his documentary and got on a call with a colleague. It wasn't even a pitch, but he started sharing about what he was doing and the person said, I'm in, I'll fund it. He had no clue that this person was in a position to give him 5 figures for his doc, but it happened. He built a relationship with this person, and so when he shared about his project, the person wanted in. This is different than buying a list of qualified investors or sending cold DMs via LinkedIn. Or recently I heard of a company that you can pay and they match you with investors via AI. This seems like the golden ticket to finding money, but I have not heard of a single success story with any of those methods. To me, it's a fast way to get discouraged and feel like nobody wants to fund your film. I mean, not many of us are cold call sales experts, but we don't have to be. Real opportunities usually come from showing up at film festivals, film markets, industry events, communities where people are actively making things happen. And then start tapping your network, start telling people what you're doing. Ask them if they know anyone who would be interested in what you're doing. The truth is, when you have a fabulous project that is also investable, people want to be involved. The network often starts building around you. Investors introduce people, collaborators lean in, doors open, because people want to be connected to projects that feel real and viable. And we've seen this firsthand. One of our filmmakers in our program, Erin, she built a relationship with another member in the community, and that led to another introduction. And that person really loved her project and connected her with an investor who contributed a significant portion of the feature she recently shot. That's how it happens. One relationship leads to the next, but it all relies on if you have something worth bringing to the table. Because you can go to every festival, every market, meet all the right people, but if your project isn't clear, structured, and designed to get funding, those conversations usually don't go anywhere. Like Mark often says, he could put you in a room full of 100 qualified investors, and unless your proposal is completely buttoned up, you would likely fail to close a single one. Not because your film wasn't good, but because it's likely not fundable in its current state. Number 2, build an investable package. So this next piece is critical because none of the other funding paths work without it. A lot of filmmakers, they focus on the creative. It's important. They have a script, a vision, and something they're excited about, and they think that's what gets funding. Partially, but investors aren't funding ideas. They're funding something as an investment. They want a creative project, yes. But if it's not built in a way that they can see a return, they will walk. Most filmmakers plan for a high quality film, but fail to think about the value of the film, how the film will actually recoup. And as filmmakers, we weren't taught that, we needed that. But that's one big reason why films get stuck in development hell or get funded and are unprofitable, because they weren't planned for profitability. And when an investor can see a path to profitability that is more than luck, that's when they commit. This is where many first films stall, not from lack of talent, from lack of structure. And that's exactly why we created the Creative Producers Filmmaking Roadmap Masterclass, because most filmmakers never get taught how successful producers actually evaluate a project before they try to raise money or spend money. Instead, they try to figure it out through random advice panels, outdated information, or trial and error, which usually gets expensive and takes a long time. So if you want to know the successful strategy producers use to fast track the green light and make content consistently while avoiding expensive mistakes before the money is spent, our masterclass is linked below. It's free and it breaks down how real projects get positioned for funding and lucrative distribution. So if you want that training, go grab it below. So now let's talk about sales agents. Number 3, sales agents are something a lot of filmmakers either overlook or misunderstand. A good sales agent isn't just there at the end to sell your film. They can help shape the project before it's made. And if you don't know what a sales agent is, they represent a film like a talent agent represents an actor. They are the ones who help films get distribution deals. They understand what the market is responding to because they're speaking with buyers regularly. They can guide decisions around budget, casting, genre, locations with incentives, and what buyers are realistically looking for. Small adjustments early can make a project far more investable later. Plus, most sales agents have access to funding and can even help you find money if they believe in the project enough. Now, it's not a guarantee, but we just heard from one of our community members who said he connected with a sales agent on his animated film, and then they said they could help him get up to 50% of his budget. Amazing. Like, that's not the norm, but you never know unless you reach out and make the connection. Now, to be clear, not all sales agents are good. There are people who overpromise and underdeliver. But the right one doesn't just help you sell a film. They help you build one that actually has a chance of getting funded. So number 4, crowdfunding. Use crowdfunding the right way. Crowdfunding is another area that can help with funding, but expectations are often unrealistic. It sounds like the perfect solution. Raise money online, fund your entire film, no investors to pay back. But it usually doesn't work like that. We've seen hundreds of filmmakers excited to run crowdfunding campaigns because one guy funds films through crowdfunding and so they want to go for it. And in the cases we've seen, filmmakers who try to fund their entire budget, 6-figure budget, come back deflated. They couldn't raise the full budget, and it is a ton of work. It's like a full-time job, and you need a massive network and multiple people working at it every day for a month to raise funds. But what it is good for is development funds, proof of concept, seed money, gap funding, or raising the final amount needed to greenlight. One filmmaker in our program, Chris, had already raised most of her 6-figure budget, but needed the final $50,000 to move into production. So she ran a very targeted crowdfunding campaign with a very specific strategy. It was very clever. Raised the $50,000. It was an amazing win, and she shot the film a couple months later. Now that's a success story with crowdfunding. It can be powerful when it's part of a larger strategy, and you never know what investors can come out of it. So it's usually not the full solution, but it can be a very strategic piece of the puzzle. Number 5, soft money, tax incentives, and rebates. The 5th way, and one that a lot of filmmakers overlook, is soft money, tax incentives, and rebates. It's not exciting, but it works. There are regions that will give money back to your production if you shoot there. And if you plan for it properly, that can reduce your actual budget significantly. So where you shoot isn't just a creative decision, it's a financial one. It can materially reduce how much money needs to be raised or recouped. And the filmmakers who understand this are the ones who are able to stretch their budgets much further. And soft money includes using everything you have access to: your apartment, your house, your friend's ranch, your family restaurant, anything. Mark's film, The Warning, looks much bigger than it was because he was able to leverage a ton of soft money in lieu of actually raising the funds. So use what you have access to, and it will reduce the cost of your budget and make your plan look more appealing to investors. So if you zoom out, here's what's actually happening. Funding usually doesn't come from one place. It comes from a combination of relationships, a well-structured project, market awareness, strategic positioning, and using the right tools at the right time. And most filmmakers don't struggle because they're not trying. They struggle because they focus on the wrong pieces first. They rush past preparation, skip the business side, and hope the idea alone will carry it. And it takes more than most people think to create a fundable film. So if you want to fund your first film, I encourage you to shift how you approach it. You're not waiting to be discovered. You're not relying on one lucky break. You're building something step by step. A network that actually matters, a project investors can understand, and a strategy that gives people confidence. Funding a film isn't quick and it's not simple, but it's also not random. There's a structure to it. And once you understand that structure, you start making better decisions much earlier in the process. Funding never gets easy, but it can get a lot easier when these things are in place. And once you master it, that's when you can start designing projects to be greenlit and start making content consistently. If this was helpful, take a second to like the video and subscribe. Here on this channel, we focus on the practical side of funding, distribution, and producing, so you can finally get your film made and start building a real future in this business. And if you have questions or something you're working through, leave it in the comments. We check every one. So thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.